Welcome back, everybody, to the BatFlip podcast. This is episode number 5. We've got not too much going on today. It was just not quite a week since our last episode, so we're going to go over the standings because we didn't last time. We got a couple topics, and then just our players of the week. Keep it real brief this week. Happy Labor Day to everybody. That's when we're recording this. How you doing, Matt?
Had better weekends. I've been battling COVID-19 over the since Thursday, and I'm feeling a little bit better. We were gonna record yesterday, but I was still still pretty sick. And today I'm feeling a little bit better, so feel like I'd give it a shot here. So if my volume or something's a little bit low or whatever, that's probably why. But I'm giving it a shot. So
Well, we wish you the best of luck on beating that for sure.
thank you very much.
Well, and like I said, we'll just keep it brief to help you, let you get back to resting some. So just quick update on the standings. We're gonna kind of base everything off the last couple weeks, last 14 days since last time was our trade deadline episode. We didn't really hit on this stuff. So the Tampa Bay Rays have enlarged their gap um, to the rest of that AL East division by 5.5 games now. They're 8-2 over their last 10, and just seem to be really hitting their stride finally.
Yeah, the Rays have I mean, they've got a lot of good, not great players in their lineup, but they've got a lot of good players. So, you can't really point to too many of them that are you would think of as elite. Brandon Lau's had a really good season, um, and then their pitching is just, they develop their pitching so well. And I mean, you've got like Charlie Morton's always been pretty good, but then you got Tyler Glass now is really starting to pitch well now after he had battled a little bit of injury last year and was a little bit slow to start this year. Probably a little bit of rust there. Um, and then you got Blake Snell. He didn't pitch great the other day, but he seems to kind of be in the same boat as Glass now, and he's pitched well. So then their bullpen's good. They do a great job mixing and matching their pieces as well.
Yeah, I think one of the more surprising teams right now as well is that team that's in second place right there in the AL East. I know it's only by a game, but the Toronto Blue Jays, I mean, for them to be up there second in that division at 22 and 18, I don't think many people expected the Blue Jays, I mean, to be in this spot, especially them losing Bo Bichette for a very long time. They did pick up, I think what it was three or
VR,
four pitchers at
they got VR
and
too.
and VR at the deadline, yeah. But I mean, it's been really nice to see them actually be successful. Not even able to play at their home ballpark. They're having to play at a minor league stadium as their home because Toronto wouldn't let them play there. But it's been really refreshing to see a team like that be as good as they are.
Yeah, I mean the Blue Jays are, they're a pretty good team. I'm still a little bit worried about their ability to limit, to limit the runs once they get to the postseason to get some better teams. But um, I mean, I thought that the Blue Jays had an outside chance if all their young guys, because just turned the corner this year, and it looked like Bo Bichette had started to really turn into a star player. But Vlad Jr. hadn't been great, and that was something that I think for the Blue Jays to get to the point where that now that I would have thought that Vlad Jr. would have had to be a large part of that. But um, I mean, they made a couple really good signings in the offseason. I mean, Hyunjin Ryu has been spectacular for them. Um, in fact, looking at some of his peripheral numbers, this is his best career season, even though he had the low ERA last year. So um, good for the Blue Jays, and um, I think that they probably are benefiting a little bit from the Yankees' injury issues. So that probably
Yeah.
has something to do with it. But
Which, yeah,
good for
let's go ahead and talk about those Yankee injury issues. They're still missing Judge, still missing Stanton. Um, 3/4 of their rotation is gone. Garrett Cole hasn't. I mean, he hasn't pitched terribly, but he hasn't pitched to what you think Garrett Cole should pitch to.
yeah.
Um, their bullpen, which is another thing we thought would be a saving grace. Chad Green has not looked good at all. Um, Chapman, even though he's come back from his COVID thing, he's blown a couple saves, I believe. Um, Britton was just on the IL and he came back and he didn't look very good either. I think Canley's injured, if I'm not mistaken. It's just
Yeah,
that. a lot of injury concerns over there in New York, and that's pretty much showing with them being only 21 and 19 right now, which is still above 500. They're still in a playoff spot, but for a team that many were considering to be the favorite in the AL to be in the World Series this year, pretty much just handing them the World Series, they've struggled quite a bit.
Yeah, the Yankees, obviously missing guys off and on, but I mean, I think a lot of their problem as well has been struggling guys that they have counted on so much the last couple of years, like Gary Sanchez, and you talked about before the season. You didn't just talk about Judge and and the rotation. You talked about Gary Sanchez being a one of the best hitting catchers in the league. You talked about Gleyber Torres after the year he had last year, taking another step forward. You talk about Brett Gardner, who had been pretty good last year, and these guys are all struggling. So it's not just um, it's not just the struggles or the injuries. I mean, the injuries obviously are a huge part of it, but that some of that depth that people thought they had in their lineup maybe isn't quite there like expected. So um, now they're still a good team, especially when they're healthy. So I think they're still going to be fine. But I mean, if they can't get healthy and they continue to play like they are now, I mean, even the Orioles are hot on their heels, and the Yankees are like I think right now are the eight seed in the
Yeah, they are.
yeah. So
They're 8 seed by 2 games.
yeah, so over the Orioles, and so like it's you know. I don't think they're going to lose enough games for that to matter, but um, you know, it's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy. The Orioles, they've fallen off since what they started. It's kind of what we expected. In their rebuilding phase. I don't expect them to get up there and make much noise for that 8 seed, but they've kept it close, and I guess that's all you can kind of really hope for on a team that's in the full-fledged rebuild like they are. And the Red Sox, and the same thing. The Red Sox are, I think they're the worst team in the
Yeah,
league right now, aren't they?
either them or the Pirates.
Yeah, they're both tied with the same winning percentage, but they have more losses
Yeah,
just because of the whole COVID
yeah,
cancellations and stuff. But the Red Sox, they've just in that reset. I mean, they their Twitter page caught a lot of flack because they put a little deal saying like hit the reset button, and that did not sit well with any of the fans in
yeah,
Boston. So I found that pretty funny, but we once they traded Mookie Betts, we kind of knew they were going to go into this kind of downhill spiral.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
and they've had a lot of players underperforming as well. JD Martinez hasn't looked good. Benintendi's the same thing. Devers really struggled at the beginning. I think he's starting to turn it around a little bit more now.
well, a
Um,
large part of it too has been that the the Red Sox have lost so many rotation pieces.
mhm.
To injury, Chris Sale, like that. That's such a killer because I mean, right now Martin Perez is their top pitcher. So I mean,
Yep.
you're not going to win many games. I mean, no offense to him because he's actually not been that bad.
No, he hasn't.
But when he's your top pitcher, I mean, you know, it's
Yeah.
uh, it's going to be a tough season. So and the bullpen's bad too. I mean, it's not just the starting rotation. It's a little bit of everything for them. I mean,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, looking over, we're gonna jump over to the AL Central. Chicago White Sox, they've went on a run and they've taken over the division lead. Mind it is only a half game over the Indians, and a game and a half over the Twins, but those were the three kind of teams we were talking about. And we earlier on one of our other episodes, we kind of said the White Sox were going to be that third team that we weren't sure if they were quite going to be there just yet. And I mean, this streak that they've gone on, Keuchel's looked really good, even though he exited the game early yesterday. Giolito, I mean, he pitched a no hitter. We didn't even touch on that last episode, but he's been looking really good finally. Turner kind of showing back to what he showed last year. And their lineup, Luis Robert he is playing like a god right now. Like he is playing out of his mind. It is so fun to watch him play.
yeah, the White Sox are good. I think I think that they probably are still. I mean, I know they lead the division right now. I don't know. I don't know how much I trust them in the playoffs with a lot of young guys, and I don't know if I trust their pitching still um, to carry them in the playoffs. I know Giolito I trust fully, but Keuchel, with his stuff, when he's in a playoff game, can be a little bit difficult. I saw that firsthand last year with him on the Braves. And they don't really have another guy after that. Their bullpen is hit or miss. So, I like the White Sox. They're a fun team. I mean, they got a lot of young players, and they've got a lot of appreciation to a guy like Jose Abreu, who went through the rebuild there, and is just killing it this year, and they're finally contending again. And the White Sox are well on their way to proving me wrong and being a playoff team. So they're a good team. I think it's funny, how quickly things can change in baseball over the course of a couple of years. We talked about a few years ago, how bad the AL Central was. It was the worst division in baseball by a huge margin. And now you look at them, and three of the best teams in the AL are in the division. So, and then the Tigers are, I don't think the Tigers are great, but I mean their record's actually not that bad. So, they've been beaten up on the NL Central, pretty
Yeah, they've
good.
they've
So,
really outperformed what people thought they would.
yeah. So,
Um, with the Indians, Shane Bieber's looked very, very good still.
yeah.
I mean, he had 10 strikeouts through five. Was it yesterday or the day before?
He's had a two-start week, so he yeah, it's something.
So, we do our players of the week, and we were looking him over earlier, and I had already picked my guy, and Matt's looking, and he's just like, man, I can't pick Shane Bieber again, can I?
Yeah, it's
He's
like
like, we could just fill it in every week with his name being the pitcher of the week for us at least.
yeah. So yeah,
But
Shane Bieber is my actual pitcher of the week, but I picked somebody else because I wanted to spread it around a little bit. But
yeah,
yeah,
we'll be talking a lot about Shane Bieber. I mean, it looks like he's going to
yeah,
be a Cy Young, and if he might be even a favorite for a an MVP right now. But
he could be. I mean, he's up there. Where would the
we'll
Indians be without him?
exactly. Um, Minnesota, they got Josh Donaldson back. I did want to hit on a play that I saw by the Twins this week. I sent it to you. They were in the bottom of the ninth. They were tied game, runners on first or second and third with two outs, and Byron Buxton comes up. He hits a routine ground ball to shortstop. Just very, I mean, it was like what, a two or three
Oh
hopper, I think,
yeah,
Matt, and
it
he
was.
beats it out at first base to win the game.
Yeah, it wasn't an especially hard hit ball, but it was. It was just a normal like.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah,
normal ball that
they
was
said.
it was middle of the infield. It wasn't anything special. You were just like, okay, that's gonna be a ground ball to short and just an easy out. And Buxton beat it out at first, and they said on the Statcast that he
Yeah,
ran 31 feet per second.
yeah,
And 30 feet per second is very, very elite. Um,
yeah. It's a 30 is about the best in baseball. I mean, I think they say up to 29 and above is elite. So
yeah, and he ran 31 feet per
yeah,
second. Like that was pretty amazing.
yeah. He is. Byron Buxton's a guy that he frustrates the heck out of me because
He could be
he,
so good.
I know he's a guy that in back in the when he was a prospect, that was the number one overall prospect in baseball.
Hmm.
He has every tool in the in the
Yeah,
kit in the box, and he is just. I mean, he just can't. He just has not put it together at the plate. He can't. He strikes out too much. He went from having a okay approach, striking out too much, to now he's decided just to swing at everything because he's gonna have to make contact or he's just gonna strike out. So his walk rate's way down, which sucks for a guy that's got so much speed. I mean, if he could draw some walks, get on base. I mean, a walk's basically a triple for him. So,
even if
um,
he could just put the ball in play. Like that's the
oh
thing.
yeah,
Like you said, he's swinging at everything, and he has every tool. Like elite defense, good
yeah,
arm.
he's got better
He could,
power than people think.
yeah, he could
So
be a
he just
25 home run bat. I mean,
yeah,
to me, I mean, I think that's top ceiling. But
yeah,
I mean, he could do that, and then he's
yeah,
a guy who could steal. I mean, he could steal upwards of 50 bases in a full
absolutely,
162 game season if he would just get on base and stay healthy. That's a big thing. Is he is always injured, and I think that's just because he plays so hard that he's always making
yeah,
diving catches and running into walls and doing that. But if he could just
yeah.
stay healthy and make a little bit more contact, he would be so good.
Yeah, he's a guy that um Hey, maybe one day he'll put it together completely. He's one of those guys that even though he hasn't turned out to be quite what we hoped as a prospect, he's still a very good player because it's just because
Oh
his
yeah,
defense is so good. And I mean, he's still putting up like, if you look at Fangraphs, 2 to 3 win seasons just because his defense and his base running are so incredible that anything he gets you at the plate, whether if he's hitting, a 240, 290, 390 slash line, which is pretty bad. I mean, as long as he's
right.
getting an 80 WRC plus or something, like he's still able to put up a great,
Yeah,
overall value because of his other skills. It's just if he ever put up even league average offensive seasons, then he would be, an all-star caliber guy. And if he ever figured it out, really figured it out, started putting up above average hitting seasons, he'd be an MVP candidate. I mean,
yeah.
he's that good of a base runner and defensive player. So
He could be very scary.
yeah,
Let's go ahead and jump over to the AL West now. Oakland is still at the top of that division by 3.5. They've started hitting a little bit of a skid. I know they had a big series this weekend with San Diego that I believe the Padres took 2 out of 3 out of that one. Houston just came. They're starting to hit their stride again, but I think they just got swept by the Angels, if I'm not mistaken, in this weekend series that they just had. Seattle, Kyle Lewis is still doing what he should do. Mark Gonzalez is looking pretty good, but Kyle Seager's having a really fantastic year as well. People don't mention his name enough, but they're starting to get in that rebuild mode as well, getting
yeah,
those young players, and obviously they're going to struggle, but them being 18 and 22 this year, closer to
yeah.
500 than I
They've
thought
been
they would be.
yeah. Like I said, they've got some guys that have succeeded. You look at obviously Kyle Lewis has been so good in center field for them. You know, especially compared to what people kind of expected of him. His stock had taken a little bit of a hit after being a high draft pick. He's been really good for them. And then, a couple other guys like J.P. Crawford has been pretty good for them. Kind of a guy that had some prospect fatigue from the Phillies that people were worried that he wasn't going to put it together. He's turned into a pretty solid major leaguer for them and played shortstop. Justice Sheffield, another guy that was kind of starting to fall on some prospect lists, has looked pretty good for them. So, um,
Justin Dunn is another name too. I don't know if
yeah,
you've seen what he's did. He had one really bad start against the Dodgers where he gave up 6 runs in 2 innings and stuff. But outside of that, he's been really, really solid. His last 3 starts, he's had 6 innings each. He's given up a combined total of 2 runs in those. He has, I think, 18 strikeouts. Still gives up quite a bit of walks, but he's been really good. He's a guy that could be there for a long haul and be a closer to the top of the rotation arm than most people probably think he can be.
Yeah, and talking about the rebuilding teams, we've said it so many times that that's what the purpose for the season is for the big league team. It's not just a lost season. It's not just
Hmm.
a tank. It's find guys who might be unheralded right now, but could potentially help your team when you start to contend again. And that's the type of guy that like all these prospects that were had a little bit of had been expected to come up a little bit sooner, but have finally started to look like they might turn the corner. That kind of guy, and then guys that kind of unheralded, like talk about Justin Dunn. We're talking about. I think the Mariners. They're looking like their rebuild's going pretty well. They got a great farm system right now.
Made some
We'll see.
fantastic trades.
They've made some really good trades. Absolutely. I mean,
Fantastic
that
trades.
Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz for Kellenic, and that looks really good right now. And
It
um,
does.
even though
It does.
Edwin Diaz has actually pitched extremely well this year, compared to popular belief, he's been
Right.
very good. So
Well, the Angels, we just talked about them sweeping the Astros this weekend. One little note that we wanted to hit on with the Angels is Mike Trout hit his 300th home run, which is the Angels' all-time record. So he's
yep,
now the leader
asked him
for
salmon.
them. It puts him at I think 150 overall on the all-time home run list. But a little stat that I saw this weekend as it was all going around on Twitter was per the Elias Sports Bureau. Trout is the fastest player in games wise to hit 300 home runs and steal 200 bases. He beats Willie Mays out. Trout did it in 1,235 games, and Willie Mays did 1,295.
Yeah.
So he did it in about 60 less games. So we are definitely, I know people say that, we obviously know that Mike Trout's going to be one of the greatest players of all time, but I still think that he's underappreciated in today's game.
Yeah, he is, because he, for one thing, playing on the Angels, who haven't really been that great for a while, and teams that aren't that great and are on the West Coast don't typically get quite as much um, publicity because of scheduling and primetime games and stuff. The Dodgers do because they're good, but most of the other teams out there don't get you know, quite as much as they should. Um, and I mean, and Mike Trout's personality, he's a really great guy. He's quiet. He goes about his business the right way. He's not, um, he doesn't, and you love the guys that are real flashy and everything, and then you also have guys like Mike Trout who aren't, and I think a lot of times that he doesn't get quite as much publicity because of that, which I don't think it's fair to him. I mean, we love to see the guys that are real flashy and making these, doing these, having a lot of fun out on the diamond, but I think Mike Trout has fun just being better than everybody else. So,
Right. And it's
um,
like the thing that's, who do you, if just the casual MLB fan or not even the casual fan, just anybody that doesn't even know much about baseball, if you asked them the one baseball player they knew, it should be Mike Trout.
yeah, oh
But
yeah,
but I'm going to guarantee 90% of the time it's going to be Bryce Harper.
yeah, and
And that's just because like of what you're saying is Bryce Harper's loud, he's brash, he's out there,
yeah.
he has fun, he's energetic that way. Where Trout is very subdued. He just puts his head down and goes about his business. He's started opening up the last couple years, and kind of really, I don't know if it's knowing that he needs to branch out or just trying to have the more respect for the game, as in just put yourself out there and just get more publicity, and just allow yourself to accept your greatness. That's what I'm trying to say is I think he's really started to do that the last couple years and just appreciate everything a little bit more.
Yeah, he's a guy that, and like you talk about with him, I think that he's so good that he could be a household type name he if his team was good. I mean, if because a lot of people, a lot of casual baseball fans are tuning in for the postseason and they never see Mike Trout because he's never there because his team's
Yep.
terrible. So, a lot of times if you got, if Mike Trout was in the postseason every year doing what he's doing in the regular season, then you're looking at a guy who everyone's hearing about because he's just killing it in the postseason, breaking records. He would, but it's one of those things where you're never going to hear about him in the postseason because or you're never hearing about him because his team's, he's hitting 2 home runs, but it's his team's down 10-7. I mean,
Right.
which the Angels are looking a little bit better right now. Don't get me wrong. I've been a little confused about how they've been as bad as they have been this year because they their pitching is bad, but between the resurgence of Dylan Bundy and and Andrew Haney, who's been a pretty good pitcher for a few years, I mean that gives them a couple good arms, and I mean their bullpen's really bad, but I mean it's confusing because their lineup's not bad. I mean, they've had a couple guys struggling. I mean, Justin Upton really struggled. He's starting to heat up a little bit now, and but Rendon and Trout are two of the best players in baseball. I mean, Rendon doesn't get enough credit for what he's done this year. He's been incredible for the Angels this year,
Yeah.
offensively and defensively. He's a great player. So
Definitely.
I think Rendon's a top 10 player in baseball easy. So the Angels have two of the top 10 players in baseball, one of them being number one, and the other one, definitely top 10. So, um, they've got two great players, and then they got a couple other guys like Upton and Andrelton Simmons, and they got some really good players on that team, and it's it's really puzzling as to how they've been as bad as they've been, but they're starting to turn it around a little bit now. I mean, you look at their win against the their win against they're sweeping the Astros this weekend, and they're 5 games out of a playoff spot right now. So I mean, they could if they could get hot. Some of those pieces on their offense that have struggled a little bit, Otani being another one. Um, you never know. I mean, they've really put themselves somewhat back in it, even though I don't think they're gonna make it, obviously. But they're starting to turn the corner a little bit.
Yeah, they're a very confusing team, even to watch them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm able to watch their games with the Dodgers as well, but they're really confusing to watch. They're really frustrating to watch as well. We're going to jump ahead over to the National League, the NL East, with the Atlanta Braves still leading that division. Phillies have kind of got a little bit of a resurgence going there. You know, there's this quote where Harper said, if they wanted to be in a playoff spot, they had to win 9 of 10, and then right after they go and win 9 of 10. Um, Arrieta's not looked as good,
yeah.
or
Arietta's
not even
really
as good. He just hasn't looked good at all. Um,
Arietta's really not a good pitcher anymore.
no, Nola and Zach Wheeler though, they're really stepping up. Reese Hoskins is playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah, he looks
Uh,
a lot better.
that's something that offense really, if they can get Hoskins going with Harper and obviously the best catcher JT Realmuto, they can be a team. Their bullpen's still not that great, and outside of Nola and Wheeler, it's not that great either. But I mean, in a playoff series where it's a 3-game series, if you throw those two at the top and win those 2 games, and you don't got to worry about the rest of them.
Yeah, I think I think the Phillies are still they got hot for 10 games. Now they've lost their last two to the Mets, and they got killed yesterday. In fact, Nola was pitching yesterday, and they gave up 14 runs. So um, that's a big. The Phillies really need to win most Nola and Wheeler starts.
There
Um,
was a lot of bad luck in that game, though.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they gave up a lot of home runs too, but
Yeah, there
but
was a lot of soft contact that I saw.
yeah, yeah. And I didn't watch that whole game, but it's one of those things where I mean, the Phillies are a team that they're gonna go as far as their bullpen carries them. They've got two good starting pitchers, and then they've got one that I think Zach Eflin's. I don't think he's bad. I think he's pretty good. But their other two guys are not good. Arrieta is not good, and then whoever they're running out there now, they changed their other guy. I think it's
Are
that
they doing
rookie.
Velasquez?
No, it's that rookie.
Oh, Spencer Howard.
Yeah, Howard. They've run him out there some, and I mean, he's looked like a rookie. I mean, he hadn't been awful, but he's looked like a rookie. So, I mean, I think it's going to take a lot for them to catch the Braves, especially with the Braves remaining schedule. They've got 3 games against the Red Sox. They got some games against the Orioles. Um, they got the Marlins this week, who are playing pretty, who are not horrible. So, they're not great, but the Braves, in fact, face Urania tonight, which will be interesting with the whole history
Yeah.
there. Um, but yeah, talking about the Marlins, they hung in there with the Rays this weekend, which was surprising. I know their record in their last 10 games isn't good, but they've hung in there a lot of times.
Yeah, they've
Um,
lost a lot of close games. That's the thing with them
yeah,
is these this last couple weeks they've a lot of close games. Marte though has looked. We talked about them
yeah,
trading for him. We were kind of confused, but he's looked really good going over there actually so far.
yeah. Marte's a good
Uh,
player. He has been for a long time. So,
the Mets they're still throwing away Jacob DeGrom starts
oh,
down the drain. The Nationals are
bad.
down there as well. It's really confusing with Nationals. I know Corbin looked terrible yesterday. They've lost
Yeah,
Strasburg, but they're with the way Juan Soto and
it's,
Trey Turner's been hitting. I mean, I don't expect them to be this bad, but man, it's just something that they cannot find it
well,
this
the
year. They have
the
lost.
Nationals, the Nationals, believe it or not, have I believe the worst rotation in baseball by ERA, and that's this despite Scherzer being in there because uh, Corbin's been real inconsistent. But I mean, Austin Voth, and
Mm-hmm.
Eric or Fede,
Mm-hmm.
however you say it, and then Anibal Sanchez have really had bad years. I mean, and then their bullpen's still not good, and they have some pieces that I watched them 4 games this weekend. They've got some pieces that look pretty
Yeah,
good in their bullpen. Kyle Finnegan really impressed me this weekend, even though yesterday he got rocked. He's got some good stuff.
I mean, yeah, they
And
still have like
Tanner Rainey, and
Doolittle. I mean, they
yeah,
still
well,
have Doolittle, Hudson,
Doolittle and Hudson haven't looked good.
Will
So
Harris as well.
Will Harris has been very poor this year.
But yeah, but they're
Even
not
though
names you expected to be poor. That's what
exactly, yeah,
they're just they're all those guys at one time have been closers in the major leagues.
absolutely. So,
And they just have
um,
not looked very good at all. It's just
right,
very puzzling for a team that, they got hot last year, but they're still your defending World Series champions, and I do
yeah.
understand that they lost Anthony Rendon, but and some of their pitching, but to be this bad, it's really
Well,
puzzling.
losing Anthony Rendon's a big deal. He is the most underappreciated guy I think this year in the big leagues. Because I mean, look what he's done, statistically for the Angels, and look what he did. I mean, I know everyone likes to talk about Juan Soto, and for good reason. He's a great player, but Anthony Rendon was the guy that he carried the Nationals last year. He was the best player of the Nationals. Juan Soto was great, and
Well, yeah,
a lot of people talk about Juan Soto because he's so young too, but Anthony Rendon was their best player, and he's the second best player on the Angels just because of Trout. But he'd be the best player on just about every team in the big leagues. He's just phenomenal, um, and he's a guy that is he's got to be the Nationals. I mean, Soto hadn't played the last 4 games. I think they're worried about an elbow injury potentially, um, and it's obviously the Braves. Which another topic we haven't really discussed too much. We might want to get into has been maybe a little bit of the bullpen management around the big leagues, because the Braves would be the leading candidate for that this week. But with the stuff that they pulled in against the Nationals this weekend, that cost them probably 2 games. Um, but the Nationals are, I mean, they're just not a good team. I mean, you look at their lineup. I mean, they've got Howie has Drupal Cabrera and Howie Kendrick and hitting 3 and 4. I mean, no offense to either one of those guys, but they're fantastic baseball players. They're great role players on a team, but they can't be your star players. I mean, Trey Turner's been really good, but he's really their only you know really good player right now, other than Soto, who's inconsistently been able to play. Um, so yeah, I mean it's rough for the Nationals right now.
yeah. So we'll jump over to the NL Central now. Chicago Cubs, they're leading the division still, only by a game and a half now over the Cardinals. I believe the Cardinals just swept the Cubs this weekend.
Yep.
Um,
I think they played again today. I think they play
did
one
they?
more today.
Are they?
I think they're going to. They play one more today.
They do at 1 o'clock. Goldschmidt's looked really good. He hit a 3-run home run yesterday. That was
It went out of the
it.
stadium.
It was out of the stadium. I turned the game on just as he walked up to the plate, and then I saw that, and he's on my fantasy team, so I very much liked that. Kipnis hit a home run yesterday, but the Cubs just, we said for a long time we weren't sure how they were staying up there, with how bad their rotation has been outside of Darvish. Really, I mean Hendricks hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been amazing either. And their bullpen's really struggled. They're finally Kimbrel had looked good, but it just
He's not.
he's not what Kimbrel used to be.
He's just not there. I mean, yeah, he has had a couple good outings, but if you go back and watch him, he was so wild. He was the same pitcher, and those guys were just swinging at it. I mean, he has looked horrible all year, and he did last year too. I mean, I hate it because I really like Kimbrel. He's one of my favorite pitchers in the big leagues. I loved him when he was one of my favorite players when he was on the Braves. I'd love to see him be successful because I like him a lot. He's a guy from the state of Alabama. He's from uh, you know, but it's I feel for him. I feel for him a lot. I think the Cardinals might win that division. The Cubs are really struggling. They got a lot of guys that are playing poor. You know, that they have to have played well. I mean, Wilson Contreras hasn't been good. Javi Baez has been horrible this year.
Not great.
Um, yeah, I
They
mean,
just got Bryant back.
Bryant they just got back, but I mean, he was bad before the injury, and whether that was we're gonna see if that was injury induced. I think it probably was, but
Yeah,
You
it was
never
his
know.
wrist. It was his left
Yeah,
wrist, I believe. So that's his more of his extension wrist, and the way he finishes with one hand, that he really finishes with that left hand, taking the power
yeah.
through it. So I think that could definitely be something. The
Oh
Cardinals,
yeah,
Flaherty hasn't looked good either.
yeah,
So if they get him turned around, that could be a big thing.
yeah.
One thing we wanted to hit on with the Cardinals, and it also we wanted to hit on with the Mets, but we didn't do it, is with the Cardinals, they just had a legend pass away yesterday for them. Lou Brock played 16 seasons in Chicago. He played for actually 4 seasons for the Cubs as well. He over 3,000 hits, 293 batting average.
The fastest
You know,
players.
one of the fastest players in history. He had a 45.4 WAR in his career. With the Mets, why we want to connect this in is Mets actually had one of their great pitchers of all time, Tom Seaver, passed away as well. He was 75. Lou Brock was 81. Seaver had 311 wins. Pitched over 4,700 innings. He had a 109.9 WAR in his career.
Yep.
He bounced around a little bit. 12 years with the Mets, 6 years with Cincinnati, 3 with the White Sox. But an interesting thing is with Lou Brock and Tom Seaver, they passed away within a week of each other. And I found this very, very interesting is that the pitcher that Lou Brock faced the most in his career was Tom Seaver. And Tom Seaver, the batter he faced the most in his career was Lou Brock. So they each faced each other the most in their career out of the entire major leagues, and then they pass away within a week of each other. Um,
That's crazy.
it's
But
very crazy. It's very weird. But we wanted to give recognition to those two because they are, Tom Seaver's one of the greatest pitchers in MLB
he really
history.
is.
And Lou Brock he's one of the fastest players, and I know the city of St. Louis absolutely adores Lou Brock. Um,
Yeah.
he was when he was traded over there. It was a trade that the city of St. Louis thought they were crazy and that they were the stupidest people to do because Brock was this prospect nobody'd ever heard of, and then he goes on to be one of the greatest Cardinals of all time. So we wanted to definitely hit on those two, and that's weird for that connection that we wanted to just put that in together.
Yeah. So, hope prayers to all their families as well, and they're just two fantastic players that were
Yeah,
just had great careers, and especially Seaver. I mean, this is a guy that like you say, 109 wins above replacement. I mean, that's for a pitcher. I mean, you're talking about one of the top 10, 15 greatest pitchers of all time, and it's just it's sad to hear about their passing.
yeah, it is. So we wanted to just shout them out. The Brewers, the Reds, they're just quietly hanging around right there. They're both, I think, about a game or 2 games out of that eighth playoff spot. Um,
Talked
we
about
we expect the Reds to be so much better. I'm just not nothing. I don't know what's not clicking there.
so I talked a minute ago about some bullpen management stuff with the Braves, and we could talk about it a little bit in a few minutes if you want to. But the Reds, I think some of that they've had some bad bullpen management this week. You know, they're really underutilizing the guy they traded for, Archie Bradley. They're kind of putting a lot on some of their bullpen arms, and they haven't really been good. Um, the Reds, I mean, you look at their lineup, you look at their rotation, they should be really good. I know they've had a couple guys that have struggled a little bit this year. Suarez started to come around a little bit. I think he had a 3 homer game, didn't he, the other day?
Yes, yes, he
Yeah.
just
So
did.
so Suarez, he's starting to heat up a little bit, and that's a good sign for the Reds because he's been a guy that's struggled compared to what they expected this year. And Votto's really struggled for them at times. So, but the Reds are a team that they're starting to, you know, they're 18 and 23. They're close, and I think they're a team that can very easily reel off 5 or 6 wins in a row because of their talent. So
They very well can. Especially if
yeah,
Castellanos can get back to hitting. I
yeah,
know he hit a
and
couple home runs this
yeah,
weekend, I think.
he's showing some signs. So
Well, let's go to the last one and finish up the standings as well with the NL West. Obviously the Dodgers are still looking like the best team in baseball. They did drop 2 of 3 this weekend to Colorado, but that game last night was crazy. It was you hit a home run, and then I'm going to come back and hit a home run and take the lead. Then you're going to hit a home run and take the lead, and then I'm going to
Yeah,
hit a home run and take the lead. It was just so back and forth. The Rockies had a pitcher. I don't know how to pronounce his
it's
last name. I think it's
Castellani.
yeah, Ryan Castellani. He looks his motion at least, the way he throws the ball looks identical to Max Scherzer. It was really creeping me out last night how
Yeah.
identical it was.
Yeah, and
Um,
I was watching the MLB Network broadcast last night with John Smoltz was on there, and they were talking about how when he was in high school, um, he actually went to a Max Scherzer bullpen or something. Like Max Scherzer was throwing somewhere near where he was, and he took some video of Max Scherzer, and he basically emulated it on purpose. And I mean, everything about him, his windup, his arm swing, it looks exactly like Max Scherzer.
even when he's standing on the mound and he's getting ready
Yeah,
to get the sign, like
yeah,
he does the hat thing and then he like shakes his arm, like it's
yeah,
identical. It is so weird. Like
yeah,
I had to like double take. I had the game on in the
yeah,
background while I was doing some stuff, and like just kind of glanced up. I saw this thing and I was like, dude, what? That looks like
yeah,
Scherzer.
yeah.
It was very weird. He looks like he'd have some talent if he could get the control under.
Yeah, he his stuff looks, his stuff looks pretty good. His stuff looks a little bit like Max Scherzer's stuff. I don't think he's throwing quite as hard.
No,
As Scherzer, but he's he's got a very similar he's got some pretty similar break on some of his stuff. He's got to learn to control it a little bit.
which
You
I
talk
think
about
that was a big deal with Scherzer coming up as well, as he couldn't
yeah,
control stuff.
yeah. You talk about Scherzer. His biggest weakness in his career, which obviously he's had a fantastic career, has been the home run ball.
Hmm.
And he's a guy that he's gives up some home runs. He's a real aggressive, throws a lot of pitches in the zone. But I think that Castellani right now, if you don't have great control of that stuff, if you're throwing that kind of repertoire and everything, you can give up some home runs, and I think that's something that's bit him some, and as well as the control. But if he can reel that stuff in, and obviously it's possible if you can repeat that delivery because Scherzer's been able to do it. Um, he could be really good. I like the thought. Hey, this guy has been one of the best pitchers of the last decade. Let's try to do what he does. so
Yeah,
so
and
it's a good thought.
an interesting thought is, with him pitching in Colorado, it's very hard for pitchers to develop in Colorado, just because of the way the air is. But I was listening to, I don't know if you watch Bauer Bites, and that's with Trevor Bauer, and he sits down at dinner with a bunch of different people, and he had an episode where he had Charlie Blackman on it with a
Yeah,
bunch of other people, and Blackman was saying it's very hard for pitchers and hitters alike to go to Colorado and play every day there, and then go to a a place that's below sea level, or any other place that's not there, and play, because every ball you hit travels less distance. A ball that you think you squared up and should be a home run, it is on the warning track. He said, but for pitchers, the stuff it breaks a lot different in Colorado because the
it
air.
does.
So he was mentioning where sliders and curveballs, they don't break as much. And watching Castellani last night, it looked like his slider was just breaking a little too much, and that was allowing it to go out of the zone, away from right-handed hitters or inside to left-handed hitters. Where if he's pitching in Colorado, that's probably a pitch that is it's probably a borderline strike right at the knees, on the inside or outside part of the play, whoever's up to bat. His fastball control, that doesn't really matter, but on his breaking stuff, I think he had a really decent changeup last night as well. But
Yep.
the slider was one pitch that I noticed that it was breaking quite a bit. But I was thinking once he gets to Colorado and that's going to not break as much, that's going to be a pitch where if he just keeps consistent with it and learn to adjust to that on the road, and maybe try and aim a little bit more to the right side of the plate when he's releasing, so that way it breaks down.
Yeah.
He could be very, very good if he can figure that part out.
Yeah, so that's interesting. It's an interesting. That was an interesting guy to watch. But shout out to the Rockies for winning that series
Yeah.
because I know that you weren't super happy about that. But the fact that I think it had been like several years since they had won a series LA against
Yeah,
the Dodgers.
it had been a very long time, and
And
actually that was the first series this year that the Dodgers had dropped. They hadn't
yeah,
dropped a
so
series all year,
yeah,
so that
so
was
the Rockies, and especially this was kind of one of those gut check series. Like they had to win this series, I think,
yeah,
to stay alive, and stay in that playoff spot. And this was a huge series for the Rockies to win. They had some good contributions from a lot of different guys, and they played well this weekend. So that's something where you know, I don't think the Rockies are gonna contend for the World Series, but they look like they're probably got a pretty good shot at that postseason. So
yeah. I think they're sitting in seventh right now, only a half
they
game
are.
up. But Padres looked really good this weekend. Like we said, I believe they took 2 of 3 from the Oakland A's this weekend.
Mhm.
Um, Clevenger made his first start for them against the Angels. He wasn't great, but um,
He was fine. Give up 2 runs over 6 innings, but they lost. I mean, their team didn't score, so
yeah, I think he was just trying to get really comfortable. It's a big deal that, with guys like Clevenger, he's coming over, but he's also having to learn a brand new catcher. And then these catchers are having to learn because the Padres traded both of their catchers. They're having to learn the entire pitching staff. So I would actually expect a little bit in this next week or so to see their pitching start getting a little bit better after, the catchers have had a full start with them as well. Um, I think Nola hit a home run this weekend, which was really big for them. Um, so, I mean, I don't know what their upcoming schedule's like, but I could definitely see the Padres starting to go on a run sometime soon. And I don't think they're going to contend with the Dodgers for the division,
yeah, they're
but they're
too far
definitely a
back
team.
already.
Yeah, they're 5 games back. But they're sitting right now as the third best team in the National League, and they're tied with the Braves. So,
Yeah,
I mean, you could see them be a team that are, you know,
yeah.
the
Well,
second
as
best
the
team in this league.
yeah, yeah, I think it's the way it works is that as a if you have to be the division the winner of your division to get that 1, 2, or 3 seed. So right now the Padres would be the I guess
Four.
the 4, yeah, but
Mhm.
they would play the worst division winner, which right now is the Cubs. So,
Well, I don't know because
oh
aren't
no
they
no no
going
no,
to the
they would be playing the 6. They'd be playing
well, isn't it that
the
the
Cardinals,
winners
I
are
think.
picking, aren't they? Isn't that what they're doing now? Is that the division winners get to pick who they want to play? Did they
Maybe
do that? I know there was
no, I don't
I
think
know there was
so.
I know there was talk about it, but I don't know if they actually did it or not.
Because I was reading some stuff. They're talking about the importance of getting the 2 seed in the NL because if you get the 3 seed, you're probably going to end up facing the Phillies, um, but or the um, or the Padres. I mean, or the Phillies or the Cardinals. But if you get the 1 seed, I mean, but if you get the 2 seed, you're probably going to end up facing the Rockies or the Giants or the Marlins or somebody.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how they do with this whole expanded playoffs. We don't know quite everything because we haven't actually seen it happen yet. So, that's pretty much your weekly standings update.
yep,
Um, so pretty much this last thing we want to hit on, we hit on pretty much what we wanted to do was want to do our players of the week. I based mine off the last 2 weeks just because we didn't do it this last week. So like we talked about him earlier, but my hitter of the week is going to be Trey Turner. In the last couple weeks, he's hitting 443. He's got 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, 3 stolen bases. He's amounted a 1.2 WAR. Um, he's got about a 47% on base percentage. He's not walking a lot and still striking out about 17% of the time. But he's a guy who, the last couple weeks, we talked about the Nationals not being great, but he's been their best player so far in this last couple weeks, and I think he deserved. He's very underrated. I've always liked Trey Turner, and I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does.
yeah, and mine's gonna be Marcelo Zuna. This is a guy that for the Braves has really lived up to his contract. They, I think he's been real impressive. Hit 5 home runs this week. Had a His slash line was 464, 531, 1.143 slugging, with a 322 WRC plus. The guy's just on fire this week. One thing we didn't really talk about earlier that we probably should have was that the Braves became the first team in Major League history to have players hit 3 home runs. The one player hit 3 home runs in back-to-back games. So Marcell Ozuna against the Red Sox hit 3 home runs. I think it was Tuesday, and then Wednesday, uh, uh, Adam Duvall hit 3 home runs. So that was something that was spectacular. Um, it was hard to believe. So that was fun to watch. And then on Friday, the Braves had a doubleheader in which Ronald Acuna Jr. hit 3 home runs, but he hit two in the first game and one in the last game. So they had three home run games, three home run days in a row. But Fridays was in two different games. Even though it was 7 inning doubleheaders, he hit the 3 home runs within 9 innings of each other. But Um, but yeah, Ozuna, you know, he's hitting the ball super hard this year, and he has for a long time. He just hits the ball hard. In fact, in this last week, his exit velocity trails only Fernando Tatis Jr. In his average exit velocity, um, and you can see that reflects in how many home runs he's hit as well as him hitting extra base hits. He's hit a lot of doubles too, so um, very good week for him. Um,
Yeah, he's been very
he's
locked in.
yeah, he's a guy that he's playing left field some, but he's DHing for the most part right now. With taking advantage of that rule, he can play left field. He's a below average left fielder, but um, he's he's put up .9 wins above replacement without even playing defense. So that kind of goes to show you how good he's been this week with the plate. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so
Well, who
who's
do
your
you got?
pitcher?
Oh, my pitcher, I am going to go with Andrew Heaney. I've always been a big fan of him as well. I'm able to watch his a lot, his starts. In the past couple weeks, he's had two real good starts, one against the Padres, one against the Mariners. In those two starts, he's amassed 14 and two-thirds innings, 16 strikeouts with only one earned run. He's given up 7 hits. Um, he's always a guy who can struggle with control. He gave up 2 walks in each of those starts. So obviously you don't you want to cut down the walk rate a little bit, but you know if he can just keep his stuff in the zone, you can see with 16 strikeouts in 14 innings, he can strike a lot of people out, and he could be a very good pitcher. It's just his command goes away from him at times, and he gets and even when he's losing command and walking people, at that point he tries too hard to get back in the zone, and he just leaves pitches right over the middle,
Yeah,
and then that's when he gets hit quite a bit. In the past couple starts, he only has a 206 on batted balls in play. He's amassed a .7 WAR, so almost a full game, a 0.61 ERA with a 178 FIP. So his FIP it's really good if you use that as
yeah, it's good.
uh, basically an equivalent to what ERA should be. Um, Striking out almost 10 per nine. It just very very good week for Andrew Heaney, and
Yeah, he's
wanted to give him some love.
yeah for sure. My player pitcher of the week is Keegan Aiken of the Orioles. I hope I said that last name right. He is and obviously, like I say, could have very easily picked Shane Bieber, but
Right.
I wanted to give him a little bit of love. He's a rookie for the Orioles, and he's pitched in 2 games this week. Started 2 games. He only pitched 9 and 2/3 innings in those 2 games, but he did give up a run, and he had a 13 strikeouts per nine. The walks, few too many walks for my liking. Five and a half walks per nine. It's not very good, but they give up a home run. He had a 211 FIP. This is a guy that the pitched. I mean, for the Orioles, first couple. This is a second and third career start. Um, Pretty impressive. I mean, I saw a pitching ninja had posted about him looking pretty good. So I figured I'd give him a little bit of love for what he's done. His he had a good week for
Yeah,
sure.
I did not actually see either one of his starts. With it being an East Coast team, they're a little too
Yeah,
early for me to be able to catch all of them. Especially being on the Orioles, it's not really shown much over here
yeah,
at all, pretty much, because they're not a good team back there.
yeah, exactly.
So I did not really see much Keegan Aiken, but just looking at his stats and his peripherals, he did have a really good week. and if that's a guy that the Orioles can develop and as a as a starter for their long term, that's going to be very interesting for them.
Yeah, for sure. So that'll be like we've talked about so many times. It's if Keegan Aiken, if he can bring those walks down, it might be a guy that you end up looking at, this year saying, hey, they found a guy. So
Yeah,
he has a pattern of the walk issues. Um, so that's something that they're gonna have to, they're gonna have to iron out a little bit. Um, but
something young
I mean, he
pitchers always
struck.
struggle with.
Yeah, I mean, he struck out guys in the minor leagues too. So
Yeah, he's got really live stuff.
he does. He's got good stuff.
Well, I think that's
So
gonna pretty much wrap up our episode this week. I think we even went longer than what we
yeah,
thought
for
we
sure.
would. But we wanted to really give an in-depth on the standings and kind of just hit on everything because it had been a couple weeks, with the deadline episode. But I think it's a really solid week. Not too many stories, not too much going on, but it's starting to get in that last push for those last 20 games. So we're
Oh yeah,
we're gonna start talking about those playoff battles just a little bit more coming up. So thank you guys for tuning in to this episode number 5 of the BatFlip podcast, and we hope to see your guys' feedback and see you guys listening next week.
yeah. Thank you, everybody, very much. Y'all have a great week. Stay safe out there.
Alrighty, Matt, feel better.
Appreciate it.
Later.
All right, later.